Hello, friends, and welcome to Shutty Uppy, Let's Talk King and Queens podcast. I'm your host, Steve Lant, and we have a very, very special show for you today. Let's introduce our co-hosts, and we'll get right into it. Dusty, how are you today?
What is up, you demented old circus monkeys? I am doing great tonight. How are you doing?
Very excited, very excited. And Jenna, how about you?
Right there with you, very excited.
So tonight, we're not going to go over a specific episode. We are going to be talking to a very special person who worked on the show for over 9 years. And we're going to get right into it. So without further ado, welcome Mr. Rock Reuben. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be on the Shutty Uppy. What a great name for a King of Queens podcast. I love it. This is
that was pretty much Dusty who came up with that one. Shutty Uppy, Let's Talk King of Queens.
I like it.
I could be creative sometimes.
Hey, we all get one once in a while. That's how it kept me on the show.
Right.
Every so often I threw one in there. So
there you go. So first of all, thanks a lot for coming on. I know you're a busy person, and you got a lot going on.
Very busy. I'm very busy.
Let's just get right into it. I would like to know how you got started in show business.
Show business. I'm actually a classically trained hotel restaurant manager. Yes. I went to University of Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
I instantly hated it. Didn't quite know what to do. And this was kind of in the late 80s when comedy was starting to boom. So I tried a couple of open mic nights. And back then, all these one-nighters and all these clubs were popping up. And there was actually, at that time, probably more clubs than comedians, or at least good comedians. So you could be pretty bad and still MC shows or, work bar shows. So pretty quickly, I was actually in an MBA program, dropped out after one semester, and just started hitting open mics and then getting some work and doing stand-up. And I don't know if you call stand-up comedy showbiz, but my showbiz, my third or fourth time on stage, I went up and Gary Valentine from King of Queens was on stage.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Gary, Kevin, and I all went to the same high school in Long Island.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fun fact, did not know that.
So we were, Gary was 2 grades older than me, and I was 2 grades older than Kevin. So I wouldn't say we were friendly, but we all played baseball and sports. So our dads were Little League managers. They knew each other. So Gary was a great baseball player, so I knew of him. And then Kevin behind us was a great baseball player and football player.
Nice.
But we weren't, other than knowing we went to the same high school, other than, hey, I think that's Gary. We knew each other, but not friendly.
Yeah.
So my third time on stage, I was at a East Side Comedy Club, which is where we all started. And Gary is on stage as Gary Valentine. That's not his actual birth name. And I didn't know. I was so ignorant about stage names. I didn't even know you could do that. So I go, that looks like Gary from high school, but it's Gary Valentine. It's not the same name. And then I looked in the corner of the room, and their father was filming Gary's set. So I was like, I know who that, so I went up to Gary after the show, and we started talking, and, he knew of me, and we became very close friends on the open mic circuit. We ended up being roommates. Kevin joined us. We were in an improv group, a sketch group. We performed in colleges together. So we kind of did about a 10-year run, more or less working together, sometimes apart, but, when we could work as a team, we did. And those were probably some of the most fun years of my life.
That's awesome.
So 10 years of doing like stand-up and improv and stuff like that.
Yeah. We, we started as open micers, and then we kind of became opening acts, then we were middle acts, and we sort of started headlining and doing TV spots back in the day, like MTV and VH1. And whenever we could, like Kevin and I did a whole bunch of sketches for a VH1 show. So we just were all, we became super close and helped each other and wrote jokes for each other and critiqued each other and picked each other up when we were down. It can be demoralizing at times. So we were a little with another comedian named Adam Ferrara, and others. Joe Rogan was actually kind of popped up there for a little while. He was in our sketch group.
Wow.
So yeah, it was like this cool little group. And one of the great things about stand-ups are you sort of help others out, which we were helped by the comedians that were ahead of us, the headliners. Once they saw we were serious, they would get us gigs and recommend us to people. So I know there's been a lot of chatter on the podcast or the Facebook groups about this guy's always on, this guy's always on, this guy's always on. How come this guy's in this movie? How come he's... Kevin was very gracious and, kept up that tradition of all the people that helped us. And I did as well. Whenever we could help a buddy out, we put him on the show, give people their first acting role, So it was just kind of a real kind of collaboration amongst comedians. So that was sort of how it came. When Ray Romano actually got Kevin James on Everybody Loves Raymond for a couple episodes, which led to King of Queens. So Ray boosted Kevin up. So it's just sort of been this whole grab bag of giving your friends jobs and working with them because they're funny. We've been in the trenches with them. So
that is so cool.
I know.
To get like that behind the scenes, we've had a couple of actors on and stuff like that, and all we hear is positive things about people who have been on the show and worked for the show and things like that. Yeah. So obviously it's not a huge surprise to us that you're telling this story about Gary, Kevin, and yourself and all the other people who are involved that you're helping each other out. That's great.
Yeah. I'm gonna blow the lid off that today though with all the dirt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, tell us. We want to know.
You got a little.
everything.
You got to dish it out.
Yeah. Well, it is true. Like Kevin and Leah were still to this day are genuinely friends. Like all the writers and the actors, we would go out to karaoke or after shows, or we'd hang out on the stage and play cards and have a couple beers. So it was always kind of like this close-knit group in real life. Sometimes it's not that way. Sometimes it's just like, hey, we work together, nice to see you, and then everybody goes their separate way. It really wasn't. It was so much fun off stage as much as we had fun doing the show. People would always do double takes to see Kevin and Leah out at a restaurant, with a bunch of people hanging out, and they're like, I thought that was just a TV thing they hung out. But, Kevin actually met his wife sort of through Leah, which is pretty amazing. She,
wow.
Yeah, Leah's very, very on. She's much like what you would imagine her to be. Like, she's very brash and, in your face and that type of person. But she's also very helpful in her own way, too. Like, I remember I was single at the time and, trying to date and doing online dating way back when. And, she'd look at me and she goes, "You're going out like that? You look horrendous." Horrendous. And then made me go shopping.
She would tell you like it is, huh?
Clothes shopping. Oh, right to your face. You look horrendous. I would never sleep with someone like you. So she took me to some fancy clothes shop, and you wear this, you wear that, that goes with this, and it was very funny. And then when Kevin had an apartment that he lived in with Gary, and they just got kind of, as comedians, we were kind of broke. So even though he had a TV show, he, went out and bought IKEA furniture and, just kind of put a bed and a TV and, sort of a basic place. And Leah came over and was like, "This is horrendous. You got to get a house. How do you live like this? This looks like a 70s disco. Come on." So Kevin ultimately bought a house, and she said, "You're not doing your house. You're getting a designer to do, interior decorator, sorry." And so she made him hire her person, and that person introduced Kevin to his wife. So it was a pretty amazing story.
So that's how it all worked out. All right.
Yep.
That's great. Now, how long into the show did all this happen?
The house part?
Yeah, like the house and
a couple
and all
years
that.
in, maybe.
Yeah.
I actually don't remember exactly. Maybe season 3. We were kind
Okay.
of getting some momentum. In the beginning, you always you kind of we talked about it before, but about getting canceled. Are we going to get canceled today? Are we getting canceled
Yeah.
tomorrow? You live.
Yeah.
It just kind of goes with the TV business. You're always kind of worried about, is this the last day? Is this the worst episode? Is this? But around season 3, we sort of started getting some ratings. So I think Kevin got himself a house, and away we go.
Felt comfortable. And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's great. I just realized that I was so nervous / excited to have you on the show. I didn't really do like a bio of you.
All right. Don't worry.
I just introduced you. So
Well,
we'll kind of do the bio as we go along.
Yeah, well, started in stand-up and then got into writing. When Kevin got King of Queens, Ray actually said to him, bring a guy or two if you can that knows your voice, and I had written a lot of our sketches and stuff, and Kevin and I knew each other's sensibility, so he brought me in to work on the show. So that was just unbelievable. It was great.
That's awesome.
Especially after 10 years on the road, it was nice to stay in one place for a little bit. It turned out to be 9 years, so it was a good run.
Wow. Yeah.
Now,
Nice.
you're in California now. Where are you originally from though? You from Long Island?
We're all from Stony Brook area, if you're familiar with New York at all. It's kind of in the middle of Long
Okay.
Island, a town called Stony Brook.
Okay.
We went to a high school, Ward Melville High School, which is famous for winning lacrosse championships. It was like kind of
okay.
a factory. And Kevin, Gary, and I all played baseball, which probably wasn't that smart, but... But,
And that's kind of back when lacrosse really wasn't that popular, right?
it's always been popular on the East Coast. It's kind of, I think,
Okay.
spread west over the years. But it's
Okay.
been always, even since I was a little kid. I didn't even know what it was when I moved to that school district. There were kids out with these sticks throwing them. I was like, what is that? But yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you talked about how it was like to be around Leah Remini and Kevin, James, and Gary Valentine. What about like the other writers and producers of the show? I mean, it sounds like you all kind of got along pretty well.
Oh gosh, yeah, we had so many laughs in the writers' room. It was a great group, and most of them were there for the majority of the run. A few left to do their own thing, and maybe a few came in, but it was kind of a core group of people, and we just laughed all day long. It was like some of the guys, Dave Bickel. I don't know if you know, he wrote a bunch of the episodes.
Okay.
He used to do things like we used to for Christmas. The writers would all chip in and give the PAs and writers assistants a good envelope full of cash for their efforts. We really appreciated the hard work they did, and it could have just been left at that. But Dave Bickel said, "Or how would you guys like to play Deal or No Deal?" So we played Deal or No Deal with a substantial amount of money that these guys had that they probably needed. And they all like, nope, Deal or No Deal. And we'd be playing, I don't want
They
to.
chose Deal or No Deal. I'd
They
be like,
chose Deal or No. Oh, we had the best writers assistants and PAs. They were all like game, like let's have fun, let's do this. So it was.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff we would always try to have fun on our floor, and then on stage there was always, the actors. Like Jerry Stiller was just an amazing, kind man. Like I don't think there's anybody that would say otherwise that from the show that if you talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we got is positive about Jerry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's so, some of my favorite times were after tapings. Ann Mira, his wife, would come in, and after the tapings, we'd sit in Jerry's dressing room, and they had a big bottle of Grey Goose, and everybody would have a cocktail, and they would just tell old stories of Hollywood, and they used to have Passover dinner in New York City with Richard Pryor and Buddy like all these Mort Saul, all these icons would be at their house for Passover. I can only imagine what the kids how they interpreted that. It was pretty wild scene. Pretty wild scene.
That's
That
crazy.
is wild.
Yeah. So
Jenna, did you have a question?
Yeah. What is your favorite memory from set?
Well, there are many, I guess, because it was 208 episodes. So,
Right.
one would certainly be hanging around with the Stillers. One of the funny thing, it was kind of half on the set and half off, but Lou Ferrigno did the show, and we were all so excited to meet Lou, and we knew he was hearing impaired, but you didn't know at that time. I think his hearing is better now, but we weren't sure what he could hear or not hear, and so I used to have a big Super Bowl party at my house, and I was inviting some of the people on stage to my house, and Lou, I didn't know if he heard it or didn't, and then he comes over, I heard you saying Super Bowl party. So I was like, oh, okay, he heard it. So I said, yeah, you're welcome to come, and, here's the address, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay, sure. And I never thought in a million years Lou would show up, but the first knock on the door, I think it was like show up at 2 or whatever the time was, Lou and his wife at the door, comes on in, and I had about 75 people at my party, and throughout the party, everybody kept coming up to me and goes, what the fuck is the Hulk doing at your house? I have pictures. He's just sitting there eating and having fun, and he's such a fun. He has a really good sense of humor too. Lou's very funny. So, yeah. But having the Hulk at my party was something I'll never. Sorry for the salty
That's
language.
awesome.
Off the
No.
Nah.
It's funny you mentioned his hearing, because one episode there was one where he mentioned he had bad hearing when Carrie was rubbing tanning lotion on his body, and he said he was hard of hearing.
You clipped out a little bit. Is that me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I heard tanning lotion. That's all I heard.
Oh yeah, I was saying that it was funny that you mentioned his that he had bad hearing, because there was one episode where he did mention that where Carrie was rubbing tanning lotion on his body, and he said he had bad hearing.
Yeah, well, it's funny when we in a multi-camera sitcom, as you know, we have a live studio audience, which is exciting, and we're shooting with 4 cameras, and a lot of it you have to hear another actor's line to know to say your line, and we weren't sure if Lou could do, we didn't know before we met him. And,
right.
Once in a while he would miss something, but he really, at the time he could sort of read lips and memorize, how the scene was flowing. And I don't think he ever missed. He was so good. But he explained he's had some, I think he was deaf when he was born, and then had some surgeries and hearing aids. And so I think he hears pretty decent, comparatively decently now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he seems like he's a pretty down to earth kind of guy too.
Yeah.
Gentle giant.
Yeah, another memory was too. I talked about how Kevin met his wife. This was around 2001. I got into online dating, which at the time it wasn't cool. It was very taboo. Like,
It wasn't cool.
it wasn't cool, and so. But in the writer's room, we sort of always share what's going on. So I would pull up my profile, my my dating app, and show them the people that I was kind of corresponding with. And the room would sort of literally have discussions like, I don't think there's something about that. And look at her kitchen. Look back there. Like, that's not her house, And
really dissecting it.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And then there would be, nope. Get rid of her. Nope. I'm out. If you marry her, I'm out. So that was kind of it was a fun deal. But they all knew my wife before. Yeah, maybe a couple of dates in. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it did work out for you, the online.
She's
dating.
still downstairs as to my last time I was down there.
Last time I checked.
So it's
That's
been
awesome.
20
That's
years
great.
or something like that. Wow. So yeah, it's been great. So
That's
Nice.
awesome. Congratulations. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to do another favorite memory was at the end of every season we would rent sort of a rock star bus, and the writers and the actors that wanted to go would drive immediately from the taping to Las Vegas, drink, hang out, party, play cards. But the highlight was we did a film festival called the Douchies. And we all made our own. It had to be 5 minutes or less, I think, was the time constraints. And then we do the festival, and then secret ballots and voting who would win. And it was a douchebag we had a golden douchie to the winner. And the whole idea of the film was it started out, the first couple of years was, I have some very embarrassing footage of me doing stand-up, industrial videos. Josh Goldsmith, one of the executive producers, he was a theater guy and leotards doing Pippin. So we kind of showed our vault of humiliating things. And then it evolved on how we could embarrass other people on the show. But things like that, I think, sum up really how into hanging out we all were. Like, we came up with events and things to do, and it was always a million laughs doing it. So those are some of the memories I think I can recall.
I mean, to be that comfortable with a group of people, or and to be able to let your guard down like that, just seems like very very cool thing to be a part of, especially for so long. Because there's a lot of people can be uptight about that kind of thing, and not showing, like, being embarrassed of that stuff. Like you guys seem like you embrace it, and you really get along very well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
In fact, speaking of I don't know if you've had Nicole Sullivan on at all. She's hilarious.
No.
Holly the dog walker.
Yeah,
We'd
we'd love to have her on.
So she ended up, her husband now, at the time, was Kevin's assistant, Jason Packham.
And he's been on several episodes, right?
He's been on several episodes.
Yeah.
But he was up and coming. He's studying acting and all that, and was Kevin's assistant. And we loved hanging around with him. And we went to karaoke one night at some dive karaoke bar. And next thing we know, it's like they're an item. And I believe they have 2 beautiful boys now. And away they go. Yeah. So there was a lot of babies and marriages and, things that came out of that time period. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, since you guys were so close, it must have just made it that much harder, though, at the end when you guys had to say goodbye. Like, that would be heartbreaking to me. I wouldn't want to be able to give that up.
It is. And then 9 years is a long time. Yeah. Also, I think everybody was, kind of burnt out on 208 episodes. We were doing 24 a year or something like that, which is,
oh wow.
Now Netflix, they'll do like 10, or 8.
Right.
We were doing 24, and it was exhausting to keep.
Yeah.
What else can they do? What other couple can they meet? So I think it was kind of mixed feelings. But Kevin was going on to do movies, and other writers were getting their shows. I did some pilots and things. So it was exciting to move on to a new endeavor. Yeah. Also,
bittersweet.
Bittersweet. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Bittersweet. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode of King of Queens?
Besides
the one, the one that we'd like to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Which one's that?
Dugout.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The Mets jail.
The ones. Well, I have a couple of favorites. They're favorites for different reasons.
Okay.
A couple that I wrote, Cologne Ranger, where Doug gets a new cologne.
Yeah.
That and my wife, that literally happened to us, almost word for word. I didn't put peanut butter behind my neck, but no, I went to. I've worn the same cologne, and my wife liked it, and I was out, so I went to Macy's, and I bought another can. And interestingly enough, it actually was a guy in the woman's thing there who helped me. And he goes, hey, bro, there's this other new stuff. Have you tried that? And I was like, no. He goes, oh, everybody's getting it. You should check it out. And it smelled nice, so I bought it and my old cologne, and I went home. But I had the new one on, and when I got in the house, my wife was like, what stinks? Something stinks. Oh, what is that? And then she smelled me and said, no, you're not allowed to wear that. I don't want you to wear that. And I have like, I hate to waste money, so the next day I woke up to go to King of Queens. I was like, well, I'm not spending the day with her, so I'll just use that for work. And I went to the Sony studios, and I got to our building, and I went up in the elevator with two women that I did not know from another project. And they both were like, what are you wearing? That's unbelievable. And I want my husband. Doesn't that smell good? And they wanted to know the name, and they were buying it for their husbands. I got out into our King of Queens floor, and Alana Wernick, one of the writers, came up to me. She goes, you smell so good. What is that? I want my husband to get that.
Oh my gosh, this is great.
I never received so many compliments in my entire life. So I was like, all right, well, I'm keeping that. I'll just wear it on work days. And we did a late, our Tuesday nights rewrites could be kind of late. So it wasn't uncommon to get home at midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Wow. So I got in at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I just I was so tired, took my clothes off, got into bed, and my wife was sleeping. And then she kind of rolled over, still asleep, and then says, I thought I told you couldn't wear that in the middle of the night. So we started to talk about it in the writer's room because everybody told all their shit in the writer's room. And we got into a funny discussion. It's like, I think a wife has certain areas where she can add input, but how you smell shouldn't be, you should control your own smell. And so we ended up coming up with that episode.
Oh, that's great.
So that is amazing.
So that's a fun one. That was a fun one. Another one that was fun for me was Screwdriver, where Arthur invents the Arthur's head screwdriver, which was it was a stand-up joke that I had written and tried on stage like 3 times. Like this, couldn't we just have one screwdriver? This Arthur guy, not Arthur, the Philip, that's what it was. Philip said, this Philip guy, what a genius to convince people that we need 2 different kinds of screwdrivers. It never got a laugh, and it was in my notebook. And so when I was coming up looking for a B story, I thought, oh, Arthur, I think the father-in-law said, hey, this Philip, Philip's guy must be a real genius, whatever he said in the show. And then Arthur, his eyes light up, and it's like, So the reason I like that thing, there were 2 things I loved about it. If you remember the stone guy that's working in the hardware store, his name's Bobby DeVito, really talented actor, but he was Jerry Stiller's assistant. And Jerry had said, if there's anything for Bobby, he's an actor, and I'd like to, he spends endless hours rehearsing with Jerry, so if there's anything, and we're like, what about this stoner guy? And we didn't know if he could act, which he did great, but we were like, everybody on the set was like, please, Bobby, kill it, and he did so great. So between those 2 things, and then my favorite joke that I've ever written was the A from the Arthur's head screwdriver goes into the corresponding A-hole.
I am dying right now because this is my favorite episode. So the fact that you're talking about it, I'm just so happy.
Well, when you write a script, you have an outline that we've all discussed as a team, and then you go off for a couple days and you write the script. And, you're in your head and you got all the things in the outline and you want to put the draft together. So it's not common to really laugh at something you write because some of it we've discussed in the room and the jokes the room pitched on or whatever. But I wrote that joke and I couldn't stop laughing. And then I was wondering if we would be allowed to say, because this is, in the early 2000s, there was standards and practices, that don't necessarily exist today. So I was so happy when that got through. They said, no, it's not. It's the a-hole to the. So that was probably my favorite joke I've written for the show. And then my other one that I was positive wouldn't get in the show was when they go to the gynecologist's house.
Yes.
I look in the windows, and I don't know if. I guess Doug said, "Oh my God, he has a jar full of vaginas." Or
yeah. Oh
yes.
my God, he's got vaginas in jars.
jars. And Victor said, no, those are peaches. Ice. Oh, yeah. I never thought we would be able to do that line. So those would be my two favorite contributions to the show. I don't know how audiences feel about them, but for me, those were
yes,
delightful.
Yeah, those are great.
Those
the
are
a-hole
great.
one, oh my god.
Yeah, I guess for people that are fans of the show, I don't know the number or the percentage, but I would say maybe half of the episodes actually happened to people in the room.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'll give you an example. I think it's called Inescapable, the tub turkey one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, that happened.
That I didn't write that episode, but I was on the road. It was Thanksgiving, and I was doing shows, but there was no show on Thanksgiving, so I was just going to stay at the hotel, and these people were like, oh, come have dinner with us. And I'm more kind of a loner, but I was like, but they were so kind. They're very nice. So I went to their house, and there were cats everywhere. I'm
Oh my god.
crazy allergic to cats. And the house wasn't super hygienic, I guess would be it was kind of messy and cats climbing on things. So I had a couple of beers, which is helpful. And then I'm eating the turkey, and I was actually starting to appreciate that they took me in. That's what Thanksgiving's all about. And she goes, it was frozen this morning. I had to throw it in the bathtub to defrost it. I had been in the bathroom to pee. I saw the tub. There was a ring around the tub, and I wanted to die.
Gagging.
I'm eating the turkey, and so I'm happy. I feel bad, and I hope in no way that these people listen to Shuddy Uppy. I want you to have all the fans in the world, but it's not them. But
Wow.
they're very kind. Again, very kind, and I'm very grateful for their hospitality and kindness. So
Oh my god.
that's my disclaimer.
Wow.
But I did almost throw up. I had to go.
Imagine.
I almost threw up.
I drove back to my hotel, and it was Thanksgiving, so most things were closed. I needed like a 6-pack to just get this memory out of my head.
Oh my god.
So that was a from the crew. Another very funny thing that happened, the show Getaway, where Deacon and Kelly are getting busy all the time to let's get it on.
Yeah.
that's my wife.
Right. Well, Kevin and I were in LA for pilot season, and we stayed at a kind of a dive hotel called the Safari Inn. I believe it's in some Tarantino movies or something. It's like a 60 style, but it's a dump. And Kevin and I were going on auditions and, trying to make it in Hollywood. And there was a couple next door, nonstop. We were there for 2 weeks. They were there for 4 or 5 days. Our picture was like vibrating on the wall. It was there was no music. It was screams of passion from the two of them. Endless. So we, but all these things kind of became episodes. They're bent and twisted and added to and things like that. The stripper pole one came from, it came from Michael Whitehorn, but his wife, my wife, Rob Schiller, the director's wife, all were doing. It was kind of a hot thing for a while, like a workout thing.
Yeah.
Sheila, I forget her name. Sheila Kelly, maybe? I don't know. She had this class, and so all the Hollywood women were doing that to get in shape, and then, you could carry it over, I guess, into your married life.
Use it later on.
So one day I go in my bedroom, and I have a pole up. Michael Whitehorn's wife, Michael pitched the idea. Rob, we all couldn't, we didn't I don't think we all realized, it was a thing. And then that became the stripper episode.
Oh my god.
But my wife, I think I don't know, some things get cut out in syndication to shorten them a little bit. But I don't know if she gave him coupons, like funny money. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my
Yes.
wife printed those up and gave them to me, and I was like, I thought it was very cute, and I put them in my dresser drawer, and I forgot about them. And then like 2 months later, my wife was in tears, like, I gave that to you, you don't even use it. You know, it's horrible. But anyway, we did this little episode based on our group experiences with our wives. So,
And that is my favorite episode of all time.
is it? It's funny.
Yeah,
I
it
read
was.
on the Facebook page like, that is the worst episode ever. That's the best. Like every episode is.
Oh, they
Yeah.
they go back.
Yeah.
There's
That
no-
Facebook group. I mean, we it's not our Facebook group, but it's we're part of it, and man, it gets heated sometimes,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I don't go on it because I just don't need
Yeah.
that kind of aggravation in my life.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many things that are inaccurate in there that I want to point out. There's zero truth to that, but
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I stay out of it. Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation or fake news, I guess is the best way to put it, right?
Fake news. Yeah. Okay.
Set them straight.
But yeah, so but that was great. The how we came up with our shows. When you can make an episode of television, in general, it's exciting when it's funny and people like it. But when it's based
Yeah.
on something that our little writers' room kind of has a really close attachment to, it's really much more exciting when those ones work. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember the episode, but there was a little person that took a
Doug's
credit
wallet.
card.
Yep.
Doug's wallet. So Mike Socio, one of the writers on the show, went to New York City, and he was at a movie theater, and there was a little person in the concession area, and everything was over his head. So he had this little rolling stool, and he'd roll over to the soda machines, put them down to bring over the. He was so fat. Mike was mesmerized. He couldn't take his eyes off of over to the popcorn, the butter, roll the thing over here, go over there, and Mike, in the amazement of what this guy was able to do, forgot to take back his credit card. So he calls the theater. He knows I never got it back from the little person. And he calls back, and they go, yeah, no, there's no credit card. He goes, I know I left it there. Well, who helped you? Describe him. He wasn't tall. Like, he was trying to be politically correct. But that element became part of that show. Margie Girl, the Margie episode.
Oh yeah.
Come on. This is based on a true
story.
event.
Gary Valentine.
Come on.
Gary Valentine had a high school girlfriend for like 4 or 5, pretty long high school girlfriend, and then they broke up. You know,
Okay.
he went to college. Everybody's life moves on. So he did not know that for 10 years she had kept in touch with, back then, handwritten letters and, calls at Christmas, went to lunch if she's into, and he had no idea. So that became a story. And,
Wow.
obviously it took
crazy.
twists and turns. There's an episode where, again, I don't remember the name of it. They have an argument and the window's open.
Yes.
Yes.
And then Alana Wernick, I believe it was, and her husband had a brawl over an ice cream scoop or something. But they're screaming at each other, and then they realize that the neighbor, so that became a story. There's so many. I'm sure I'm forgetting so many of them, but
Oh, what about the Three Wives episode? That's my favorite episode.
with Holly.
Yeah.
Which one is-
She was
Yes,
the
Holly
downstairs
and
wife.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. I'm trying to think where that one came on. I don't remember whose idea that was. I don't think any other writers had a upstairs wife in the house.
That's my dream. I always tell my wife that.
Yeah. There was a lot of work wives, like, writers
Yeah.
that kind of got along or,
Yeah.
just in a work, liked writing together or things like that.
Right. Right.
Both happily married, but they were like their work wife kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was a popular element. Yeah, for sure.
Deacon, no, I'm your work wife.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Or you're my work wife.
So Was there any like difficulties you guys faced in production, or was there ever a time when like you thought the show was going to be canceled or anything like that?
Not eminently. I don't know. Without getting too deep into finances of how TV works, which is very boring. But essentially, when and I fully don't have a grasp of it, but when you make an episode of television, when you air it with those commercials don't cover the cost of the episode. So every episode that you make has debt, like, and it adds up, over the years. Okay. So when you add season 1 to season 2 to season 3, until that show syndicates and gets a big chunk of money to air it all over on all the other channels, you're building a huge millions and millions of dollars in debt. So they get nervous until that happens. So certainly the first 2.5 years, 3 years maybe, there was like, why are you not rating? Like, you should be doing what Raymond's doing. And then why is Friends getting, like there was a little bit of that. Not to the point where anybody thought we were getting canceled, but you definitely like, all right, let's write better. I don't know what to do. We all would try, but nothing eminent, but like things happen. Like, what's the episode? Oxymoron, which I believe is with the mask.
Okay.
The oxygen mask came down, and Doug put it on his face before, which that was the story that Kevin's, I don't know if it was his parents, friends, or someone that happened to him. We kind of made a story about that. But we table read that on a Monday. And in that, it's, turbulence, the airplane shit, it looks like they could potentially be a disaster. Well, the Tuesday was 9/11. And the episode that we have written and built sets for is not really a good one to have post 9/11. Yeah. So it ended up, I think we shot it, I don't know if we shot it way later or just a little bit later and then put it in the can and held it until, months later at least where, and I think there may have been elements, like a couple lines might have gotten cut out of there, it was definitely, but things like that happen, where you, what are you going to do, and luckily we weren't in the woke generation like today, because we would have been canceled 1,000 times over, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's lines that you wouldn't be able to say now.
Yeah.
We got a letter, not we, but CBS got a letter, a really strongly worded letter from a woman, because we did an episode with peanut allergies, which Spence, the bartender, liked Spence, and she only gave peanuts to the guy she liked, so he didn't want to insult her, so he'd rather go to the hospital than lose a shot at this beautiful girl, eats the peanuts. Right. So people laughed, we taped it, didn't think anything of it. And my son has a nut allergy, so I'm very familiar with how bad it could be. Well, this lady said, how dare you, my son, he's in the hospital, and terrible, he could die, and that's funny to you? And in her letter, she goes, like, I normally like the show. That's what's so disappointing about this. You're making fun of peanut allergies. That episode should never air again. I like the shows you do where Kevin's fat. And we're like, oh, I see. So your kid's not fat. So you don't care. That's funny to you. It's like,
That's okay.
You're not sensitive about weight. You know what I mean? So it's like, but so there was like some phone calls and emergency damage control meetings, and then they kind of just said, it's one lady, it's one letter. Today that lady would be on CNN and
all over she'd be all over the place. Yeah.
You'd see my house being lit on fire by the government.
So there's an episode. It's actually the very first episode we did on the podcast, because we don't go in order. We just kind of pick and choose like random episodes to review every week. Mm-hmm. And the first one we did was Dugout.
Okay, yeah.
And when he calls, when Doug exit, he describing Arthur as a demented old circus monkey and all that. So Doug ends up in Met's jail.
Yes.
And he meets a character who's very, very inebriated.
Oh, yes.
So can you walk us through that? Yeah.
Would you like
can you
to
walk
meet?
us through that scene, maybe?
What's that show? The Actors Studio?
Yes.
Is drunk?
Yes.
Is drunk guy here today? Piazza!
With the arm up and everything. I love it. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think
Now that was early.
Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I was in a couple of them as like extras here and there, like popped in.
Okay.
But that was my
That was
big
your
part.
claim.
That's my big
claim
break.
to What? Now, obviously, you were already like a writer and producer at that point on the show, and all that. Like that wasn't like your.
That was.
You know.
Was that season 1 or 2? I don't remember. It was pretty early, so.
Yeah.
I was like a baby writer at the time, so.
A baby writer.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the evolution of is there like steps that you take to obviously become, because you were a producer, right? Correct?
Yeah, basically they call it a staff writer. That's like it mostly has to do with experience and pay, basically. So you start off as a staff writer, and then there's a title called story editor, co-producer, producer, supervising producer. They don't really mean very much, other than maybe executive producer or creator or something like that. Other than experience, it's sort of like karate, yellow belt to a orange belt. Or I don't know. I don't do karate. You get the idea.
Okay.
So, but the more experienced you are as a writer, the more is expected of you. So, higher level writers would maybe be called in to do some editing or go to the auditions and cast parts, or different producerial functions that are beyond the writer's room. But basically, it's kind of just a title. Sounds cool.
Okay. Sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. You want to talk about any of the other projects you've been involved in over the years?
Well, after King of Queens, I did a pilot with Cedric the Entertainer that we shot but didn't get picked up. I worked on Here Comes the Boom with Kevin. I co-wrote that or rewrote that, and Zookeeper I did with him. I've done a lot with Kevin. I created with Bruce Helford and Kevin Can Wait, the much maligned Kevin Can Wait. Very controversial show.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was fun.
I liked it too.
It was fun. And then I worked on the crew and, constantly working on different things. Yeah, but nothing, that was King of Queens by far the most successful for sure.
Yeah.
How long would it take for you to like write and produce a episode?
Usually what happens with the episodes are the writers, either the whole group if we can, or if we're shooting an episode that week, half the writers will work on that week's episode and the other half will work on a future episode. So it kind of depends. You hear songwriters say, I wrote that song in 15 minutes, But it seems like the funnier episodes, they just unfold kind of quickly. So maybe in a week we kind of get an outline together. Once we feel like the outline works, everybody signs off on that. Whoever's writing that script would go home for a few days and turn out the first draft. Then everybody sits in a room and it's called tabling. And we go through the script page one and add jokes and fix what doesn't seem to be working in the story. So hopefully it's like 2 to 3 weeks for the whole process, ideally, to play out. But it can be longer, it can be shorter. And then we table read it on a Monday and we rewrite again. And we put it on its feet on a Tuesday and we rewrite it again and tweak it on a Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday we start shooting. So that's kind of the process. It's definitely a conveyor belt where you gotta because you can shoot episodes faster than you can write them.
So, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we would usually get a 2-month head start. We call pre-production, where we would all brainstorm for like 8 weeks or so, come up with hopefully 6 or 7 scripts. The actors come back and start shooting them. So our bank, we call it a bank. Your bank of scripts that are ready starts shrinking. You add one, but then you know. And by the end of the year, usually you're writing this week's episode, next week's episode this week. You just kind of cranking. Hopefully not, but that generally tended to be the pattern for sure.
Yeah, like you said, there was 24 episodes. You know, now, like you said, like Netflix typically does like a 10 whatever episode season.
207, so it was 208, 207, 207.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It was fun times.
What do you got going on nowadays?
I started doing stand up again, just kind of for fun. I missed you know, when I was on the show, I couldn't keep up with it, and it just wasn't, you know, I didn't have the time, but I always missed it. I missed not doing it. So I've been doing that, and I'm working on a project now that's held tightly under wraps. But I'm writing a script, working on a project, trying to put some talent with it. So
awesome.
Hopefully next year that happens.
Next year?
yeah.
Yeah, we'll be looking for it next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. We have a long way to go, but
yeah, no, that's exciting stuff. Where can like your Instagram? I know, like on your Instagram, you're always posting some funny stuff and talking about your upcoming stand-up shows and all that.
yeah.
Where can people find you on Instagram and Facebook or whatever?
Rock Reuben 1. So REUBEN. And then just Rock Reuben on TikTok. I do some silliness over there.
Oh, nice.
It's fun to do. I've just started doing that also. You know, I've had a good amount of time to kind of do fun stuff, you know, because you get burnt out doing the same kinds of things over and over. So to do something silly is exciting. So that's what I've been doing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I actually got rid of TikTok, but now that you said you're on it,
Yeah,
I know Dusty's on it big time.
I'm blowing up. I
getting back on.
have 175 followers. So
Yeah, and I'm one of them, and I think Dusty is too.
Yep.
all right, well,
It's about to be 176.
all right. Well, hopefully all of your loyal fans will look up for some. If they need a laugh, that's my.
Yes.
I try to make it funny anyway.
You've made me laugh.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, we don't want to take up any more of your time. We appreciate everything you've talked about tonight. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you guys did too.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you guys.
Seriously, a dream come true.
Best,
like
that was awesome.
best show ever. Like
Yeah.
I have a tattoo of the King and Queen.
Oh my goodness, that's a
IPS
fan.
truck.
Yeah.
I'm like die-hard King and Queens fan here. So
I love
I'm
it.
like, oh.
That's beautiful. Yeah, no, it's funny because it was successful when we were making them, you know.
Right.
But after the show went into syndication, it kind of blew up way bigger. Like there's more fans now. And I get people say that all the time. You know, I never watched that show, and then I started watching it. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So how did I miss that? So
Yeah,
Best show
exactly.
ever.
Yeah,
I remember watching it with my father and everything. It was such a good show.
yeah. It was so cool. But what got you guys to do this? You just been fans of the show and said, "Hey, let's do it."
Yeah, I've created a bunch of podcasts that kind of have gone nowhere over the years. So I was like, you know what? I really like the King and Queens. I put it out on that Facebook group one day, and Dusty, reached out. A couple other people reached out, but Dusty, he was doing some funny stuff. So I was like, all right, let's do it. And then we had Jenna on as a guest a couple of times over the episodes, and we asked her to be another co-host.
Because I'm so funny. They just could not have me.
It's hilarious.
I think
She brings a voice of reason to the show.
You bring
yeah.
you bring the heat. You gotta have somebody that brings it.
That's right.
Yeah, no, we just we enjoy talking about it. We enjoy rewatching the shows and looking for things, little things here and there. And
yeah.
It's fun. We actually ask. We always have a guest on, like a fan of the show, and we'll ask them trivia about that specific episode of the week. Just instead of just going through like, oh yeah, this is what Doug and Carrie did, this and that.
Yeah.
We try to make it a little interesting,
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. Well, congrats to you guys. I love it.
Thank you. And you're welcome to come on anytime.
Yeah.
And
All right.
we appreciate it. It's an open
Very much
invitation.
So.